Former WWE star says Randy Orton was meant to be a wrestler. In his 4-year run with WWE, Maven faced a variety of veterans, legends, and fellow up-and-coming stars of the business. On a recent episode of The False Finish, Maven recalled a standout match against an opponent that technically fell into the latter category, though his skills seemed more aligned with that of a veteran. In fact, the former WWE Hardcore Champion believes that opponent, Randy Orton, was simply destined for the professional wrestling path. Obviously, Randy Orton was just heads and tails. Randy's another one of those guys that he was just meant to be a wrestler, Maven said. We were in WWE developmental, and Randy wrestled like a seasoned pro, even as early as I would say 2002, before they even debuted him. There was a match I had in 2004, and I forget what the scenario was, but there was a clock underneath it. Randy and I went out, and we put forth a good match. When I go back and watch that match, it's not like Randy's carrying me. We're having a good match because we're both putting forth a good effort. That's probably the match that I go back, and I look back fondly of. As a third-generation performer, Orton was introduced to pro wrestling at a young age. 20 years later, he decided to follow in the footsteps of his father and grandfather, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. and Bob Orton, and begin his own in-ring journey with a brief stint on the Independents and later WWE. Fast forward to 2024, Orton is now a 14-time world champion, trailing behind only John Cena and Ric Flair for the all-time record of 16. WWE ID prospect looking to break Randy Orton record that a wrestler currently signed to the WWE ID system already has their sights set on an accolade held by Randy Orton. Orton has captured the World Championship 14 times during his lengthy career, equaling Triple H's record. Only Ric Flair and John Cena have held the top prize more than the Apex Predator and the Game. Orton's first title reign began over 20 years ago when he won the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam. At just 24 years old, Orton became the youngest world champion in company history, surpassing the previous record set by Brock Lesnar. Earlier in the year, Orton stated in an interview that the chances of anyone breaking his record remain highly unlikely. As far as someone becoming the youngest world heavyweight champion, and taking that from me, I don't see that happening. Only because I think it was a very special circumstance when I became the youngest world champion. I was 24 years old, and I don't know if there's anyone young enough to make it to that yet. So I think I'm going to hold that for quite some time, if not from here on out. Taking notice of his previous comments, WWE ID prospect Brad Baylor called out Orton and accepted the challenge. Taking to social media, Baylor pointed out that he has 4 years to accomplish the goal. Randy Orton remains off TV. Orton was last seen on TV during the November 8th SmackDown. A victim of Kevin Owens' recent rampage, the Viper was hit with a devastating piledriver from KO and was stretchered out of the arena. Following the attack, WWE provided an update on Randy Orton's condition. An NJPW star has called out WWE's Randy Orton for a match in a heated provocation that seemingly came from out of nowhere. While the Big Wrestle Dynasty crossover event is set to take place at the Tokyo Dome on January 5th featuring NJPW, AEW, CMLL, Stardom, and ROH stars, one talent has challenged WWE stars as well. Kid previously called out another top WWE star, undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes. You can click here to read more about his Tokyo Dome challenge to Rhodes. However, Kid is seemingly already occupied for the Wrestle Dynasty affair, set to take on Kenny Omega in the latter's return to the ring for the first time since December 2023. Randy Orton, for his part, has been out of action since being attacked by Kevin Owens, including Owens using the banned-in WWE piledriver move on Orton in the melee. You can keep up with all the latest news from around WWE at this link. For decades, the opinion of Vince McMahon was the determining factor that would make or break a superstar's career in WWE. Few ever found that out the hard way more than Mr. Kennedy. Debuting on SmackDown in August 2005, the Wisconsin native looked destined for stardom almost from the moment he arrived on television. The real-life Ken Anderson was even given McMahon's own middle name, Kennedy, as his WWE moniker. Dripping with charisma, his gimmick of doing his own ring introductions soon proved a hit with fans. The sky looked to be the limit for Kennedy. Debuting on SmackDown in August 2005, the Wisconsin native looked destined for stardom almost from the moment he arrived on television. The real-life Ken Anderson was even given McMahon's own middle name, Kennedy, as his WWE moniker. Dripping with charisma, his gimmick of doing his own ring introductions soon proved a hit with fans. The sky looked to be the limit for Kennedy. Even suffering a serious shoulder injury a few months into his main roster run didn't do much to stop Kennedy's momentum. Once healed, he was immediately placed into a feud with Batista and rounded out 2006 by working with company icon The Undertaker. McMahon couldn't have been higher on Kennedy's potential at the time. Bigger things were on the horizon for Kennedy, though, as he won the coveted Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania 23 in April 2007 to put himself just one match away from becoming a world champion in WWE. Unfortunately for Ken, he would never actually get to cash the briefcase in. A suspected torn tricep muscle meant that Kennedy was hurriedly booked to lose the briefcase to Edge. Although his injury didn't end up being as serious as first thought, Mr. Kennedy's breakout moment was gone. While he failed to recapture the promise of his initial 18 months in the promotion, Kennedy was still featured strongly on television over the next couple of years, regularly tangling with the likes of John Cena, Shawn Michaels, and Jeff Hardy. He was even selected to star in his own WWE Studios movie, Behind Enemy Lines, Columbia. However, in May 2009, an in-ring incident with Randy Orton on Raw would leave McMahon so furious that he fired Kennedy over it and blacklisted him from ever returning to the company. Orton and Mr. Kennedy only locked up for a brief passage of a 10-man tag main event, but a botched-back suplex from Kennedy, which saw Orton land directly on his head, would ultimately cost the once-hot prospect his job. Explaining his side of the story on a message board that he used to run, Orton revealed exactly what he said to Kennedy and McMahon after the match. "I did tell Ken that he shouldn't be dropping me on my head with such a simple basic move. He never said sorry and even called me a liar after the match. I remember looking at him in disbelief. And yes, I did tell management I did not want to work with him after that. Who wouldn't? That's my side." An irate Orton continued. "I honestly hope for his wife's sake that he can find something else he's marginally good at and earn a living. I know he really wants to entertain. So good luck, Ken, you're going to need it." Kennedy was officially released by WWE 4 days after the match. His high-profile run in WWE meant that Kennedy, under the ring name Mr. Anderson, was snapped up by TNA Wrestling in January 2010, where he won the company's world title on 2 occasions. He departed the promotion in 2016 and has worked occasionally on the independent circuit ever